Canada, an Arctic Nation by Joseph Pearce. Canada is an Arctic nation, and as a nation, we need to look at the Arctic from a global perspective so we can identify and seize political, international, and commercial opportunities in the region in the 21st century. In a Globe and Mail opened entitled, "The Last Thing We Need is Another Foreign Policy Review," from January 20th, 2012, the former Chief of Staff of Prime Minister Mulroney and Ambassador to the United States Derek Burney and Professor Osler Hampson, the Director of the Norman Paterson School of International Affairs at Carleton University, wrote about Canada's foreign policy and questioned the need for another foreign policy review. They stated, "We're an Arctic and Western Hemisphere nation. Our foreign policy priorities should anchor those dimensions as well, especially since the economic potential of both is likely to increase in the decades ahead." They argue at the conclusion of their opinion piece, ultimately, the effect of Canada's role in the world will be determined more by what we do than by what we say we should do. The difficult question is what should be Canada's Arctic policy, and what Canada should do in the Arctic. Canada needs to shift its thinking about the Arctic from a domestic perspective to an international one. This will allow Canada to seize various opportunities. One significant challenge is that the region is changing so fast. There is no single source of information, and the issues cut across jurisdictions, disciplines, and the private and public sectors. We need an ongoing and sustained dialogue. It is a challenge, but one that can be overcome in typical Canadian fashion when we as a nation put our minds to it. We have a strong and long successful history of projects carried out as a nation when the public and private sectors collaborate on a project or issue. Some great examples are the CPR's Transcontinental Railway in the 19th century and the construction of the St. Lawrence Seaway in the 20th century. The Arctic is Canada's project in the 21st century. The first step in solving a problem is to identify the problem and then to collect all the facts so that we can discuss and formulate an Arctic policy. This article will provide readers with a brief overview of the present state of selected Arctic issues and a way forward for Canada. We need to look at the Arctic Ocean basin as a semi-enclosed sea, not unlike the Mediterranean, and we need to change our perspective and look at the region as a whole. Canada is one of the 5 Arctic coastal nations, which includes the United States, Russia, Norway, and Denmark, commonly referred to as the Arctic 5. A great deal of attention has focused on delineating the outer limits of the continental shelf and mapping the continental shelf for the purpose of making claims. Canada has collected much of this data, working in close cooperation with the United States. It should be noted that in the Arctic Ocean, there is an area of high seas commonly referred to as a donut hole, which is outside the jurisdiction of any of the Arctic coastal nations. Under the law of the Sea Convention, the Arctic Ocean's high seas need to be managed for the benefit of all humankind. This is why so many international players are interested in the potential fishing, mineral, and other resources and shipping routes in the high seas portion of the Arctic Ocean. In addition, there is potential for new shipping routes in the Arctic Ocean to open up, which could greatly alter world trade patterns. Non-Arctic nations have a right under international law to be part of this process. Canada has the opportunity to become an Arctic superpower as Canada's former Foreign Minister Lawrence Cannon stated in June 2009. In 2013, for a duration of 2 years, Canada will be chair of the Arctic Council, a regional organization that was created in 1996 to look at the Arctic issues. Canada was a major supporter of the creation of the Arctic Council. Over time, the Arctic Council has grown in stature and importance, has become more robust, and its role continues to develop. Some interpretations of the Arctic Ocean's territory include all of the Arctic Ocean and not just the area within the coastal state's power to regulate. These interpretations would indicate that many non-Arctic nations, including China, are positioning themselves to have a say in how international activities in the Arctic Ocean are governed. At present, rapidly diminishing and thinning sea ice in the Arctic Ocean, coupled with strong global demand, is allowing for increased commercial activity in resource development and international and destinational shipping. This is a direct result of climate change. The Arctic Ocean's basin is expected to become central to the global economy. Russia has been promoting the Northern Sea Route as a deep water route that runs across the Russian Arctic coast and has seen a variety of commercial traffic in 2011. Marine traffic is expected to grow in the coming years. The Northern Sea Route, or Northern Passage, as it has been sometimes called, provides a shorter and arguably pirate-free route for commercial shipping between the Atlantic and Indo-Pacific. Russia's Prime Minister Putin has been actively promoting this shipping route. In 2011, 75 different foreign flags were flying from vessels in Russian Arctic waters. There has been discussion that the Northern Sea Route could have a major impact on the port of Vancouver because it provides a shorter route between Northern Europe and the west coast of North America. The debate in Canada has so far focused more on the international status of the Northwest Passage rather than on any commercial implications. Canada needs to look more broadly at how global shipping routes could change as a result of the lack of sea ice and the need to look at how we can position ourselves as a leader in the Arctic shipping governance. We need to take a solid risk management to Arctic shipping that is fully supported at the International Marine Organization, IMO, and the Arctic Council. Finished.